Today, you're going to see the best movies that didn't win an Oscar, the biggest injustices in Academy Awards history, where some of the greatest films ever made lost to movies that, while good, don't even compare. With this video, you'll see why the Oscars shouldn't be taken too seriously and how they've always been unfair. So get comfortable, because today on Cine Prime...
Gandhi.
One of the biggest scandals in Oscar history was the snub of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Steven Spielberg's masterpiece. The film, which captivated audiences worldwide, was nominated for 9 awards, including Best Picture. However, the most prestigious award of the night went to Gandhi, a respectable drama, but one that failed to leave the same cultural impact as E.T. How is it possible that a film that touched the hearts of millions and became a global phenomenon was reduced to just a few technical awards? The story of a boy and his friendship with an alien remains a timeless classic, while the Academy, at the time, failed to grasp E.T.'s true significance. It wasn't just about visual effects or a simple plot. E.T. reshaped fantasy cinema and redefined how we connect with emotions. Its absence from the top category remains one of the greatest injustices in Oscar history, one that many still can't forget. One of the most beloved films in cinema history, Fight Club, not only won nothing, but wasn't even considered for the main Oscar categories. This David Fincher masterpiece, with its incredible script and unique direction, was completely ignored by the Academy. What more did it need to be recognized? Fight Club defined a generation with its radical critique of consumer society and the unforgettable performances of Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. Yet, in its eternal blindness, the Academy only gave it a ridiculous nomination for Best Sound Editing. Just one nomination, when its screenplay, direction, and lead performances all deserved, at the very least, a spot in the Best Picture or Best Director categories. This is a clear example of how the Academy utterly failed to recognize the cultural impact that Fight Club would have over time. Without a doubt, it stands as one of the greatest injustices in Oscar history. It is absolutely unacceptable that The Dark Knight, one of the most revolutionary films in cinema history, was not nominated for Best Picture. This film didn't just redefine the superhero genre, it transcended it, leaving an indelible mark on popular culture. With Christopher Nolan's masterful direction and one of the most iconic performances of all time by Heath Ledger, who posthumously won the Oscar for his role as the Joker, The Dark Knight absolutely deserved a place among the Best Picture nominees. The film's omission from the top category remains one of the Academy's greatest failures, and a clear example of how, at the time, they failed to recognize the true cultural impact of this masterpiece. The Academy didn't just ignore one of the most influential films of modern cinema, they demonstrated their inability to understand what truly changed the industry.
And the winner is... This is the time I'm right. Ordinary People.
It is downright insulting that Raging Bull, one of the most powerful and transcendent films in history, lost the Oscar for Best Picture to Ordinary People, a well-made but far less significant film in terms of impact and cultural legacy. While Ordinary People told a relatively conventional family drama, Raging Bull was a visceral explosion of raw human emotion, a brutal and realistic study of obsession, violence, and self-destruction. Scorsese's direction, Robert De Niro's monumental performance, and the film's intense screenplay make it a cinematic landmark. Ordinary People, though well executed, pales in comparison to the magnitude and depth of Raging Bull. The Academy once again chose to reward a safer, more accessible film while ignoring Scorsese's bold and daring genius. And let's not forget that The Shining was released that same year and didn't receive a single nomination.
And the winner is Kramer versus Kramer.
Apocalypse, now arguably the greatest war film in cinema history and one of the best films of all time, not only lost the Oscar for Best Picture, but also walked away with just 2 minor awards in 1979. The Academy chose to reward Kramer versus Kramer, a good film, but one that pales in comparison to the magnitude, depth, and complexity of Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola delivered an epic masterpiece about the madness of the Vietnam War, featuring unforgettable performances by Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, and Robert Duvall. The film's haunting atmosphere, masterful direction, brutal yet mesmerizing scenes, and meticulously crafted screenplay place it at the pinnacle of war cinema. Yet, instead of recognizing all this, the Academy chose to honor a more conventional divorce drama with Kramer versus Kramer. The fact that Apocalypse Now was overlooked in the major categories, winning only for Best Sound and Best Cinematography, remains one of the greatest injustices in Oscar history.
And the Oscar goes to Forrest Gump.
I'm not just saying this because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Pulp Fiction is truly one of the greatest films in cinema history. It has transcended and revolutionized filmmaking 1,000 times more than Forrest Gump. With its groundbreaking narrative, stylized violence, and innovative script, Pulp Fiction has become one of the most legendary, iconic, and beloved movies of all time. However, while Forrest Gump is undoubtedly an excellent film, it belongs to a clearly lower category in terms of cinematic impact. Once again, we saw how the Oscars tend to prioritize emotional films that tackle themes like disability and discrimination, while overlooking a masterpiece that completely reshaped modern cinema. The fact that Pulp Fiction didn't win Best Picture, while Forrest Gump took home the award, shows how the Academy continues to undervalue originality and innovation in favor of more traditional storytelling.
And the winner is Rocky.
It's absolutely unfair that Taxi Driver, one of Martin Scorsese's most influential and disturbing masterpieces, not only lost the Oscar for Best Picture to Rocky, but also didn't win a single award that year. While Rocky is an inspiring film that became a milestone for Sylvester Stallone, its Best Picture victory cannot compare to the magnitude of what Taxi Driver achieved in cinema. While Rocky tells an emotional story of perseverance, Taxi Driver delivers a deep exploration of alienation, violence, and human desperation. Robert De Niro's performance as Travis Bickle is legendary, and Scorsese's direction, with its tense atmosphere and dark portrayal of New York, is one of the most brilliant in film history. It's hard not to see the immense injustice in how the Academy chose to reward a boxing story, great as it may be, over a film that offers far more complexity and innovation. The omission of Scorsese and De Niro that year remains one of the biggest oversights in Oscar history.
And the Oscar goes to Dances with Wolves.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
It is outrageous that Goodfellas, one of the most influential films of all time, lost the Oscar for Best Picture to Dances with Wolves, a solid movie, but one that doesn't come close to the cultural impact or excellence of Martin Scorsese's masterpiece. Goodfellas didn't just define gangster cinema, it revolutionized storytelling with its electrifying narrative, complex characters, and Scorsese's unparalleled direction. The performances by Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, and Robert De Niro remain legendary, and the film has endured as a cornerstone of modern cinema. Meanwhile, Dances with Wolves is a well-crafted classic story, but it pales in comparison to the raw intensity and emotional brutality of Goodfellas. The Academy made a monumental mistake by awarding a more conventional film about a familiar subject, while overlooking one of the most groundbreaking movies ever made. The snub of Scorsese and his masterpiece remains one of the biggest missteps in Oscar history. It is outrageous that 2001, A Space Odyssey, the greatest science fiction film of all time, and arguably the best film in history, was overlooked at the Oscars. It only won a measly award for Best Visual Effects and wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, when it truly deserved to dominate in all the major categories. As always, the Academy went with the safe and conventional choice. Instead of recognizing Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece, they awarded Best Picture to Oliver, a well-made musical, but one that is now completely forgotten. The comparison is laughable. While 2001 revolutionized cinema with its visual ambition, philosophical impact, and groundbreaking narrative, Oliver is just another generic musical. What's even more absurd is that Kubrick wasn't even recognized for Best Director, despite having changed the course of film history with this movie. To this day, 2001 remains analyzed, studied, and revered as one of the most important films of all time. There is no debate, this is the biggest scandal in Oscar history. Citizen Kane, the most incredibly revolutionary film in cinema history, not only lost Best Picture, but also fell victim to a sabotage campaign that nearly erased it from existence. The film that redefined cinema, introducing narrative, visual, and technical innovations never seen before, lost to a good but completely forgettable movie, How Green Was My Valley. The issue wasn't just with the Academy, but with the brutal boycott by William Randolph Hearst, the media mogul on whom the character of Charles Foster Kane was based. Hearst did everything in his power to destroy the film, preventing its promotion and pressuring the industry to ignore it during the awards. And the Academy, cowardly as so many times before, allowed itself to be manipulated. The result: Citizen Kane only won Best Original Screenplay, an insulting award for a masterpiece that should have swept all the major categories. Decades later, the story has been clear. Citizen Kane is still regarded by many as the greatest film of all time, while How Green Was My Valley is simply a good and forgettable movie. Without a doubt, the greatest injustice in Oscar history. That was The Top. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and comment on what you think is the greatest scandal in Oscar history. Bye.